The Galactic Crisis. The crystalline spires of Nevoria Prime glittered in the light of the binary suns, their iridescent surfaces refracting rainbows across the bustling cityscape below. For millennia, the Nevorians had prided themselves on their peaceful civilization, their advancements in art, science, and philosophy earning them renown across the galaxy. But today, the usual serenity of their capital was shattered by an atmosphere of palpable fear. In the Grand Council chamber, nestled within the tallest crystal tower, Elder Zara stood before the assembled leaders of Nevoria. Her luminescent skin, typically a calm blue, now pulsed with anxious purple hues. Esteemed colleagues, she began, her melodic voice tinged with urgency. The reports from our outer colonies are grim. The Crix's swarm has breached our furthest defensive perimeter. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The Crixis were the stuff of nightmares, a hive-mind species that consumed everything in its path, leaving only barren husks of planets in its wake. For generations, they had been a distant threat, held at bay by the vastness of space and the vigilance of other, more militaristic species. But now, they had come from Nevoria. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Thex, his crystalline appendages clinking nervously against his seat. "Our deep space sensors should have detected their approach months ago." Zara's skin rippled with somber greens. "The swarm has evolved. They've developed some form of cloaking technology that renders them invisible to our scanners. By the time we detected them, it was too late for our outer colonies." The chamber erupted into chaos, voices overlapping in a cacophony of fear and disbelief. Elder Zora raised her hands, calling for silence. "Please, we must remain calm. Panic will not serve us now." As the noise subsided, a younger counselor named Lyra spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. "What of our allies? Surely the Galactic Confederation will come to our aid." Zara's skin darkened to a deep blue of sorrow. "We've sent out distress calls to all our allies, but the responses have been limited. Many fear drawing the attention of the Crixis to their own worlds. Others simply lack the military might to make a difference against such a force. So we stand alone." The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of impending doom. "Not entirely," Zora replied, her tone measured. "The Altarians have pledged what support they can spare, but their forces are small. The Gentae have offered sanctuary to any refugees we can evacuate. But against the full might of the Crix's swarm." She left the sentence unfinished, but everyone understood the implications. For the first time in recorded history, the Nevorian Grand Council faced the very real possibility of extinction. Their society, built on principles of peace and intellectual pursuit, had never developed the kind of military might needed to repel such an invasion. Their defensive capabilities, while advanced, were designed to deter pirates and small-scale conflicts, not an all-consuming swarm. As the council debated their limited options in the streets below, the citizens of Nevoria Prime went about their daily lives, blissfully unaware of the looming catastrophe. Children played in the crystal gardens, their laughter echoing off the towering spires. Scholars debated philosophy in open-air forums, their discussions as lively as ever. Artists crafted intricate light sculptures, bending photons into impossible shapes that danced in the air. But in orbit above the planet, the Nevorian defense fleet mobilized. Ships that hadn't seen combat in generations powered up their systems, crews scrambling to remember training they had never expected to use. Admiral Kex, a veteran of peacetime maneuvers but never true warfare, stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Crystal Sentinel, watching as his fleet assembled. "Status report," he barked, trying to keep the nervousness from his voice. His second-in-command, a young officer named Vex, responded promptly. "All ships reporting in, Admiral. We have 200 vessels of various classes assembled. But, sir, against the Crixis numbers." Kex cut him off with a wave of his hand. "I know, Vex, but we must try. We're all that stands between the swarm and our homeworld." As the fleet prepared for what many feared would be their final stand, back in the council chamber, Elder Zora made a fateful decision. "There is one other option," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Zora's skin shifted to a mix of cautionary yellow and desperate red. "There are stories, whispers really, of a species from a distant arm of the galaxy. They call themselves humans." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the council. Councillor Vex spoke up. "Humans? I've never heard of them. Are they members of the Galactic Confederation?" Zara shook her head. "No, they are not. In fact, they are largely unknown to most of the galaxy. But the stories I've heard, they speak of a species of incredible resilience and ingenuity, a people who thrive in adversity and have overcome challenges that would have broken other civilizations. And you believe these humans could help us?" Lyra asked, a hint of hope creeping into her voice. "I believe they may be our only hope," Zora replied. "The stories say they have faced threats similar to the Crixus before and emerged victorious. Their military prowess is said to be unmatched, their strategies unpredictable." The council chamber buzzed with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Vex voiced what many were thinking. "But if they're so powerful, why haven't we heard of them before? Why aren't they part of the Galactic Confederation?" Zara's skin rippled with uncertainty. "The stories suggest they are a young species, only recently achieving faster-than-light travel. They've had limited contact with the wider galaxy, preferring to focus on their own expansion and development. But those who have encountered them speak of their potential with awe, and sometimes fear." "Fear?" Lyra echoed, her own skin pulsing with concern. "Are we considering replacing one threat with another?" "No," Zora said firmly. "The humans are not like the Crixus. They do not seek to consume or destroy, but they are fierce protectors of their own, and of those they consider allies. If we can convince them to help us, to see our cause as just, they could be the salvation we so desperately need." The council debated furiously. Some argued that reaching out to an unknown species was too risky, that they should focus on evacuation and preserving what they could of their civilization. Others saw it as their only chance of survival, a desperate gamble, but one worth taking. In the end, it was Lyra who tipped the balance. "We have always prided ourselves on our openness to new ideas, new cultures. If these humans are as the stories say, then reaching out to them is not just our best chance for survival, but a reaffirmation of who we are as a people. We must try." With a solemn vote, the council authorized Elder Zora to send a desperate plea across the stars, to a species they knew only through rumor and legend. As the message was prepared, encoded with all the information they had on the Crixus threat and their own dire situation, Zara couldn't help but wonder if they were already too late. In orbit, Admiral Kex received word of the Council's decision. As he watched the message beacon launch, streaking away faster than light towards the unknown reaches of space where humanity dwelled, he allowed himself a moment of hope. But that moment was short-lived. "Admiral," Vex called out, his voice tight with panic. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple signatures. It's the swarm, sir. They'll be here within days." Kex felt his heart sink. Days. They had days to prepare for an onslaught that had already consumed countless worlds. He looked out at his fleet, knowing that each ship, each crew member, represented the best of Nevoria. They would fight, and likely die, to protect their home. "Send word to the surface," he ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. Tell them to cherish these moments, to hold their loved ones close, and to pray, if they're so inclined, that somewhere out there, these humans are listening." As the grim message was relayed to the planet below, the citizens of Nevoria Prime began to understand the gravity of their situation. The crystal spires, which had stood for millennia as symbols of peace and progress, now felt terrifyingly fragile. In homes, in public squares, in the grand halls of learning, Navorians gathered to comfort each other, to share what might be their final moments of peace. And far away, hurtling through the vast emptiness of space, a desperate plea raced towards Earth, carrying with it the hopes of an entire civilization. The Navorians, a people who had never known true war, who had built their society on the principles of harmony and intellectual pursuit, now found themselves hoping for salvation from a species known only through whispered legends. As the binary sun set on what might be one of Navoria's last peaceful days, Elder Zara stood at the window of the council chamber, watching the sky darken. In those twilight moments, she allowed herself to voice the question that plagued them all. Humans, if you're out there, will you hear us? Will you come? The answer to that question would determine the fate of not just Navoria, but potentially the entire galaxy. For if the stories were true, if humanity was indeed the force of nature they were rumored to be, then the arrival of the Crixus swarm might not mark the end of Navorian civilization, but the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. As night fell, the crystal spires of Navoria Prime glowed with an inner light, a defiant beacon against the encroaching darkness. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a message hurtled towards Earth, carrying with it a plea for help, a warning of a threat beyond imagination, and the potential for an alliance that could reshape the future of the galaxy. The stage was set. The Crixus swarm approached, an unstoppable force of destruction. The Navorians, a peaceful people facing annihilation, pinned their hopes on legends and whispers. And humanity, unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding, stood on the precipice of a decision that would define their place in the galactic community. The countdown to destiny had begun. Humanity's arrival. Admiral Elena Vega stood on the bridge of the EFS Titan, Earth's most advanced dreadnought, her eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The message from the unknown alien species, the Navorians, played again, their desperate plea echoing through the command center. "I still can't believe we picked this up," muttered Captain James Chen, Vega's second-in-command. "If we hadn't been testing the new long-range quantum comm array." Vega nodded, her expression grim. "Luck or fate doesn't matter now. What matters is what we do next." The bridge crew worked silently, tension thick in the air. Humanity had only recently ventured into the stars, their faster-than-light technology barely a decade old. They had encountered other species, yes, but nothing like this. Never a civilization on the brink of extinction, begging for help against a threat that seemed almost mythological in its horror. "Admiral," a young lieutenant called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." Vega straightened her uniform. "Put it through." The holographic display shifted, revealing the stern face of Fleet Admiral Konstantin Petrov. "Admiral Vega, I assume you've analyzed the alien transmission." "Yes, sir. It appears genuine. The Navorians are facing imminent invasion by a species they call the Crixus swarm. From the data they've provided, it's unlike anything we've encountered." Petrov's frown deepened. "And you believe we should intervene?" Vega didn't hesitate. "I do, sir. This isn't just about saving one alien species. If this swarm is as dangerous as the Navorians claim, it could threaten the entire galaxy, including Earth." There was a long pause as Petrov considered her words. Finally, he spoke. "The Security Council agrees with your assessment, Admiral. You are hereby authorized to render aid to the Navorians and engage the Crixus swarm if necessary. But be warned, we're flying blind here. This could be first contact, or first combat, or both. The fate of humanity standing in the galaxy may rest on your actions." "Understood, sir. We won't let Earth down." As the transmission ended, Vega turned to her crew. "You heard the man. Plot a course for the Navorian home system, maximum speed, and send word to the fleet. All available ships are to rendezvous with us en route. We're going to war." The Titan's engines flared to life, the massive ship turning gracefully in space before disappearing into the swirling vortex of a hyperspace window. Behind it, dozens of other ships followed, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels, the most powerful armada humanity had ever assembled. As they hurtled through hyperspace, Vega reviewed the Navorian data again and again. The Crix's swarm seemed almost impossibly dangerous, a hive-mind species that consumed entire planets, adapting and evolving with terrifying speed. But humanity had faced its own existential threats, had clawed its way to the stars through sheer determination and ingenuity. They wouldn't go down without a fight. Days passed in the odd non-time of hyperspace travel. The fleet drilled, ran simulations, prepared for every possible scenario. And then, suddenly, they were there. The Titan dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Navorian system, the rest of the fleet emerging behind it in a carefully choreographed dance. And there, before them, was a sight that made even the hardened bridge crew gasp. A planet of crystalline beauty hung in space, its surface a mosaic of colors that seemed to shift and dance. But surrounding it was chaos, a ragtag fleet of alien ships, clearly outmatched, desperately fending off wave after wave of something. The Crix's swarm ships, if they could be called ships, were like nothing Vega had ever seen. They moved with unnatural coordination, shifting and reforming like a school of fish, and they were winning. "Open a channel to the Navorian fleet," Vega ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. A moment later, a holographic image flickered to life on the bridge. The alien, clearly a Navorian, looked exhausted, its skin pulsing with colors Vega couldn't begin to interpret. But the relief in its eyes was universal. "This is Admiral Elena Vega of the Earth Fleet Ship Titan. We received your distress call, and we're here to help." The Navorian's eyes widened. You came." The humans actually came. Its voice was melodic, almost musical, even through the translation software. "I am Admiral Kex of the Navorian Defense Fleet, and I fear you may have arrived too late. The Crix's swarm is." An explosion rocked the Navorian ship, cutting off Kex's words. Vega's tactical display lit up with new warnings. "Admiral," Captain Chen reported, "the swarm is changing formation. They're coming for us." Vega's eyes narrowed. This was it, humanity's first true interstellar battle, and the stakes couldn't be higher. All ships, battle formations, cruisers, form up around the Navorian fleet. Destroyers, attack pattern Delta. And get me a firing solution on that lead swarm ship. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, taking up defensive positions around the battered Navorian ships. The Crix's swarm, perhaps sensing the new threat, began to coalesce into a massive, almost organic-looking structure. "Admiral Kex," Vega called out, the Navorian's image still flickering on her display. "I need you to tell me everything you know about their tactics, their weaknesses. We'll hold them off, but we need to find a way to beat them." As Kex began to speak, pouring out everything the Navorians had learned in their desperate fight, the two fleets clashed. Human weapons, railguns, plasma lances, and exotic particle beams lashed out at the swarm. Some found their mark, tearing chunks out of the alien formation. But for every piece destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The battle raged, a chaotic swirl of light and destruction against the backdrop of Navoria's crystalline beauty. Human ships danced and weaved, their tactics clearly taking the swarm by surprise. But the aliens adapted quickly, their hive mind allowing them to shift strategies with terrifying speed. On the Titan's bridge, Vega watched the battle unfold, issuing orders and adjusting strategies on the fly. "They're learning," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "We need to end this quickly." That's when she saw it, a pattern in the swarm's movements, a rhythmic pulsing that seemed to originate from a central point in their formation. "There," she said, pointing to the holographic display. "That's their command node. If we can take that out—" "Ma'am," Chen interrupted, his voice urgent. "3 Navorian ships just went dark. Their fleet is collapsing." Vega made her decision in an instant. "All ships, this is Admiral Vega. Concentrate all fire on these coordinates. Empty the magazines if you have to, but bring that command node down. The human fleet responded as one. A wall of firepower unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen converging on a single point. The swarm tried to adapt, to protect its vital center, but it was too late. For a moment, it seemed like space itself was tearing apart as the combined might of humanity's weapons found their mark. And then, silence. The command node exploded in a burst of impossible colors, the shockwave rippling through the rest of the swarm. Ship after ship went dark, the hive mind connections severed. What remained of the once unstoppable force began to drift aimlessly, no longer a threat to anyone. On the Titan's bridge, the crew held their breath, scarcely able to believe what they were seeing. Then, slowly, a cheer began to build, starting as a whisper and growing to a roar. They had done it. Humanity had faced its first true interstellar threat and emerged victorious. But Vega's celebration was short-lived. "Status of the Navorian fleet?" she demanded. Chen's reply was somber. "Not good, Admiral. They've taken heavy losses. Many of their ships are without power, and their defenses." He trailed off, the implications clear. Vega nodded, understanding. They had won the battle. But the war was far from over. "Open a channel to Admiral Kex," she ordered. The Navorian's image appeared once more, his skin now a swirl of colors that Vega was beginning to recognize as a mix of relief, exhaustion, and lingering fear. "Admiral Vega," Kex began, his voice filled with awe. We cannot thank you enough. You've saved our world, our entire species." "The fight's not over yet, Admiral," Vega replied, her tone gentle but firm. "Your people have suffered greatly, and there may be more of the swarm out there. But know this, Earth stands with Navoria. We'll help you rebuild, defend your worlds, and together, we'll face whatever threats the galaxy has in store." Kex's skin rippled with what Vega hoped was gratitude. "You honor us, Admiral. When we sent out our plea, we dared not hope for such a response. The legends of humanity's strength were true, it seems." As the Titan moved into orbit around Navoria, preparing to receive the first official delegation from the planet's surface, Vega made a silent vow. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever horrors the universe might throw at them, humanity would face them head-on. They would fight, not just for themselves, but for all those who couldn't fight for themselves. The age of humanity's isolation was over. The age of galactic responsibility had begun, and somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, the remnants of the Crixus swarm drifted, dormant but not destroyed, waiting, adapting, evolving. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. Battle for Navoria. The crystalline spires of Navoria Prime glittered in the artificial light of the orbital defense platforms, a stark contrast to the organized chaos unfolding in the space above. It had been 3 standard galactic months since humanity's arrival and their decisive victory against the initial Crixus swarm attack. But that victory, as Admiral Elena Vega had predicted, was just the beginning. In the makeshift war room aboard the ESS Titan, now permanently stationed in Navorian orbit, Vega stood before a holographic display of the system. Red markers, representing confirmed Crixus sightings, blinked ominously at the edges. "They're probing our defenses," Captain Chen observed, his voice tight with tension. "Testing for weaknesses." Vega nodded grimly. "And adapting. Each attack is different, more sophisticated than the last. They're learning." Elder Zara, the Navorian representative, pulsed with anxious colors. "But surely they cannot overcome the combined might of our forces. Your victory was so decisive." "That victory made them cautious," Vega replied, "but not defeated. The swarm is vast, and what we destroyed was just a fraction of their total force. They're gathering strength, preparing for a full-scale invasion." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Rice, the tactical officer, called out, "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. It's big, Admiral. Really big." The holographic display lit up with new contacts, an overwhelming sea of red that seemed to swallow the blue dots representing the human Navorian defense fleet. Vega's eyes narrowed. This is it. The main invasion force. She turned to Elder Zara, her voice firm but compassionate. Elder, you need to get to the planet. Initiate the evacuation protocols we discussed. We'll buy you as much time as we can. Zara's skin rippled with a mix of fear and determination. May the cosmic winds be at your back, Admiral. We entrust our fate to you and your people. With a final nod, the Navorian leader was escorted to a shuttle bound for the planet's surface. As soon as the door closed behind Zora, Vega's demeanor shifted. Gone was the diplomatic facade, replaced by the steely resolve of a battle-hardened commander. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Captain Chen, signal the fleet. It's time to show these bugs what humanity is really capable of. Throughout the combined human-Navorian fleet, crews scrambled to their posts. On Navoria's surface, sirens wailed as civilians were herded into underground shelters and evacuation ships prepared for launch. The Crix's swarm emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metal and malice. Their ships, if they could be called that, moved with uncanny coordination, shifting and reforming into complex patterns that defied conventional tactics. My God, Chen whispered, staring at the tactical display. There must be thousands of them. Vega allowed herself a grim smile. Then it's a good thing we brought friends. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Vega. You know what's at stake here. Not just Navoria, not just Earth, but the future of this entire galaxy. We are the line in the sand. We are all that stands between these monsters and countless innocent lives. So let's show them what happens when they pick a fight with humanity and our allies. Weapons free. Give 'em hell. The space around Navoria erupted into a frenzy of light and destruction. Human railguns spat hypervelocity rounds that tore through Crix's bioships. Navorian crystal lattice lasers sliced through the void, their beams refracting and multiplying to hit multiple targets. And at the center of it all, the Titan unleashed its full arsenal, each shot precisely calculated for maximum effect. But the Crixus were relentless. For every ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. They swarmed around the larger human and Navorian vessels, latching on with tendrils of living metal that began to corrode hulls and disrupt systems. Admiral, Reyes called out, his voice strained. We're losing ships fast. The swarm is. It's adapting to our weapons. Effectiveness is dropping across the board. Vega gritted her teeth. This was the Crix's true power, not just their numbers, but their ability to evolve mid-battle, to turn defeat into a learning opportunity. But humanity had a few tricks up its sleeve too. Initiate Operation Sunburst, Vega ordered. Chen's eyes widened. Admiral, that's untested technology. We don't know if. We're out of options, Captain. Do it. Throughout the human fleet, hidden ports opened on the hulls of specially modified ships. From these ports emerged swarms of tiny drones, each no larger than a human fist. They streaked towards the Crix's ships, weaving through the chaos of battle. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, Crix's ships began to falter. Their movements became erratic, their attacks unfocused. Some simply drifted inert. It's working, Reyes exclaimed. The nanites are disrupting their hive-mind connection. Vega allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Operation Sunburst, a daring plan to fight the swarm with a swarm of their own. Microscopic machines designed to infiltrate Crix's biotechnology and sever their psychic links. It was a gamble, but one born of human ingenuity and desperation. But the victory was short-lived. Even as they watched, the largest Crix's ship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the Titan, began to pulse with an eerie light. A wave of energy swept out from it, and suddenly the disabled Crix's ships roared back to life. They've adapted, Chen said, his voice hollow. They found a way to shield against the nanites. Vega's mind raced. They had planned for this, had contingencies upon contingencies, but the Crixus were adapting faster than anyone had anticipated. She was about to order a strategic retreat when a new voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral Vega, this is Dr. Lyra from Nevoria Prime. We have a proposition." Vega recognized the voice, one of the Nevorian scientists she'd been working with. "Go ahead, Doctor, but make it quick." "We've been analyzing the Crixus energy signatures," Lyra said, her words coming fast. "There's a pattern, a frequency that seems to be key to their hive mind. We think we can disrupt it, but we'll need to get close, very close." Vega understood immediately. "You're talking about a suicide mission." There was a pause before Lyra responded. "We're talking about saving our world, Admiral. And maybe yours too." For a split second, Vega hesitated. She thought of Earth, of the responsibility she bore not just to this alien world, but to her own people. But then she remembered why they had come here in the first place, not just to defend humanity, but to stand for something greater. "Understood, Doctor. We'll get you your shot." Vega turned to her crew, her voice ringing with authority. "All ships, this is Admiral Vega. We're initiating Operation Spearhead. I need volunteers for a high-risk, close-range assault on the Crixus command ship." She didn't have to wait long for responses. Ship after ship, human and Nevorian alike, signaled their willingness to take on what might well be a one-way mission. "All right," Vega said, feeling a swell of pride. "Let's make this count. Titan will lead the charge. All other ships provide cover fire. And someone get Dr. Lyra and her team up here now." What followed was a battle that would be remembered in the annals of both human and Nevorian history for generations to come. The Titan, flanked by a mixed squadron of human and Nevorian ships, punched through the Crixus line in a desperate gambit. Beams of energy and streams of projectiles filled space as the Allied fleet gave everything they had to clear a path. Ships on both sides exploded in silent bursts of fire and debris. On the Titan's bridge, crew members worked feverishly at their stations, rerouting power from failing systems and firing weapons with pinpoint accuracy. And through it all, Vega stood firm, calling out orders and adjustments, her mind processing the ever-changing battlefield with machine-like efficiency. They were taking heavy damage, but they were getting closer to the massive Crixus command ship that loomed before them like a malevolent leviathan. "We're in range," Chen called out as the Titan shuddered from another impact. Dr. Lyra, who had arrived on the bridge minutes earlier with a hastily assembled device, nodded to Vega. "We're ready, Admiral." Vega took a deep breath. This was it. Do it. Lyra activated the device, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a wave of energy unlike anything they had seen before pulsed out from the Titan. It washed over the Crixus command ship, and for a heartbeat, the entire battlefield seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, the massive ship began to convulse. Arcs of strange energy coursed across its surface, and its movements became erratic. All around it, other Crixus ships began to falter and drift. "It's working," Lyra exclaimed, her skin pulsing with excitement. "We've disrupted their hive mind." But Vega knew better than to celebrate too soon. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command ship. Everything you've got." The Allied fleet responded with a barrage that lit up space like a newborn star. The Crixus command ship, already reeling from the psychic attack, stood no chance. It broke apart under the onslaught, chunks of biometal and strange fluids spreading out in a ghastly cloud. As the command ship died, the effect rippled through the rest of the swarm. Ship after ship went dark, their coordinated movements degrading into aimless drifting. Some exploded, as if their own internal energies had turned against them. Others simply fell apart, their very structures seeming to lose cohesion. On the Titan's bridge, an eerie silence fell. The crew stared at their displays, scarcely able to believe what they were seeing. It was Chen who finally broke the silence. Admiral, I think we won. Vega allowed herself a small smile. We won the battle, Captain. But something tells me the war is far from over. She turned to Dr. Lyra, whose skin was cycling through a rainbow of colors. Doctor, I think you and I need to have a long talk about that device of yours, and about what else your people might be capable of. As the remnants of the Crixus fleet drifted lifelessly in space, the combined human-Navorian armada began the process of securing the system. There would be celebrations, Vega knew, both here and back on Earth when news of the victory reached them. But there would also be questions, fears about what this new alliance might mean for humanity's future. Looking out at the crystalline beauty of Navoria, now safe thanks to the sacrifice and ingenuity of two very different species, Vega felt a profound sense of change. The galaxy had shifted today, in ways that perhaps even the Crixus could not have predicted. Humanity had come to the stars seeking knowledge and adventure. They had found a war, yes, but also something more. A chance to be part of something greater than themselves. As the Titan moved to help a damaged Navorian cruiser, Vega realized that this was just the beginning. The Crixus would be back. Of that, she had no doubt. But when they returned, they would find not just humanity waiting for them, but a united front of species ready to stand against the darkness. And that, Vega thought with a fierce pride, was something worth fighting for. Turning the tide. The aftermath of the battle for Navoria was a mixture of jubilation and grim determination. As the dust settled and the immediate threat receded, both humans and Navorians found themselves facing a new reality, one where their fates were inexorably intertwined. In a hastily constructed research facility on Navoria's largest moon, Admiral Lilina Vega stood before a holographic display, surrounded by an unlikely mix of human scientists and Navorian researchers. The facility, dubbed Unity Station by its inhabitants, had become the heart of the Alliance's efforts to understand and counter the Crixus threat. "Run it again," Vega ordered, her eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of light that represented Crixus communication signals. Dr. Lyra, the Navorian scientist whose last-minute invention had turned the tide of the battle, manipulated the controls with her luminescent appendages. "As you can see, Admiral," she explained, her skin pulsing with excited blues and greens, "the Crixus hive mind operates on multiple quantum frequencies simultaneously. Our disruptor worked by targeting the primary frequency. But they'll adapt," Vega finished, nodding. "They always do." Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, the lead human xenobiologist, stepped forward. "That's where we come in," she said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "We've been analyzing the Crixus biosamples collected from the battlefield. Their ability to evolve rapidly isn't just impressive. It's unprecedented." Vega raised an eyebrow. "Unprecedented how?" Rodriguez tapped a few commands, and the display shifted to show a microscopic view of Crixus' cellular structure. Their entire biology is built around adaptation. Every cell, every molecule is designed to change, to improve. It's as if their entire species is one giant, ever-evolving supercomputer. Which explains why traditional tactics fail, Vega mused. "We're not fighting an army, we're fighting an algorithm." Lyra's skin rippled with thoughtful purples. "An algorithm. Yes, that's an apt analogy. But every algorithm has its limits, its edge cases. We just need to find them." As the scientists debated theories and possibilities, Vega's mind raced. The combined intellect of humanity and the Navorians was formidable, but would it be enough? The Crixus had nearly overwhelmed them even with the element of surprise on their side. Next time. Her thoughts were interrupted by a priority alert from her comm unit. "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice came through, tense and urgent. "We're picking up multiple anomalies at the edge of the system. It looks like they're back." Vega's jaw tightened. "So soon?" "Understood, Captain. I'm on my way." She turned to the assembled team. "Looks like our timeline just got a lot shorter, people. I need solutions, and I need them fast." As Vega hurried to the shuttle that would take her back to the Titan, Dr. Rodriguez fell into step beside her. "Admiral, I have an idea. It's risky, maybe even crazy, but crazy is all we got right now, Doctor. Let's hear it." Rodriguez took a deep breath. "We turn their adaptability against them. Instead of trying to destroy the Crixus, we infect them with us." Vega stopped short, staring at the scientist. "Infect them? With what?" "With humanity," Rodriguez said, her eyes shining with the fervor of scientific breakthrough. "We create a biodigital virus, one that carries the essence of human unpredictability, our capacity for illogical leaps of intuition. We flood their hive mind with the chaos of individual thought." It was a wild idea, bordering on the insane. But as Vega mulled it over, she realized it might just be crazy enough to work. The Crixus, for all their power, were ultimately logical beings. Their strength lay in their unity of purpose, their ability to process and adapt to any situation. But human minds, human creativity, and irrationality, that might just be the monkey wrench in their perfectly evolved machine. "Do it," Vega said as they reached the shuttle. "Work with the Navorians. Use whatever resources you need. Just get me a prototype as fast as you can." As the shuttle lifted off, carrying Vega back to the front lines of what was sure to be another brutal battle, the scientists of Unity Station threw themselves into their work with renewed vigor. Human-computer experts worked alongside Navorian psychics, melding cutting-edge Earth technology with the almost mystical sciences of Navoria. Days passed in a blur of frantic activity. On the fringes of the system, the human Navorian fleet engaged in a series of hit-and-run skirmishes with Crixus scout ships, buying time for the researchers on Unity Station to complete their work. Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was in reality less than a week, Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the Titan's comm system. "Admiral, we've done it. The human chaos virus is ready for deployment." Vega allowed herself a grim smile. "Not a moment too soon, Doctor. The main Crixus fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. We're about to have our hands full." The scene that greeted Vega as she stepped onto the Titan's bridge was one of controlled chaos. The tactical display showed an overwhelming sea of red markers representing the Crixus fleet, dwarfing the blue dots of the Allied forces. "Status report," Vega barked as she took her place at the command station. Chen's response was terse. "Not good, Admiral. They've adapted to our previous tactics. Our weapons are barely making a dent, and they're tearing through our outer defensive lines like they're not even there." Vega nodded, having expected as much. "Then it's time to change the game. Prepare to receive Dr. Rodriguez and her team. As soon as they're aboard, I want that virus loaded into every delivery system we've got." The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. As the Crixus fleet pressed their attack, pushing the Allies back towards Navoria, the Titan became a hive of activity. Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked feverishly to integrate their creation into the ship's weapon systems, while Vega coordinated the increasingly desperate defense. "Admiral," Chen called out, his voice strained, "we can't hold them much longer. 2 more Navorian cruisers just went dark, and our own fleet is down to 60% strength." Vega's grip tightened on her command chair. "Dr. Rodriguez, please tell me you're ready." There was a moment of tense silence. Then Rodriguez's voice came through, breathless but triumphant. "It's done, Admiral. The virus is loaded and ready for deployment." Vega took a deep breath. This was it, their last, best hope. "All ships, this is Admiral Vega. Fall back to secondary defensive positions. Prepare for electronic warfare package deployment on my mark." As the Allied fleet pulled back, the Crixus pressed forward, clearly sensing victory. Their massive ships, more organic than mechanical, pulsed with an eerie light as they closed in for the kill. "Now," Vega said, her voice calm but filled with steel, "deploy the human chaos virus." From the Titan and several other specially equipped ships, a wave of energy pulsed out. To the naked eye, It was barely visible, a slight distortion in space, like a heat haze, but its effect on the Crixus fleet was immediate and dramatic. The foremost Crixus ships suddenly lurched, their coordinated movements becoming erratic. Some spun in place, while others veered off course, colliding with their fellows. The eerie glow that had suffused their fleet began to flicker and dim. "It's working," Chen exclaimed, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. "Their formation is breaking up." Vega leaned forward, her eyes locked on the tactical display. "Don't celebrate yet. Keep watching." For a few moments, it seemed as if the entire Crixus fleet would simply fall apart. But then, slowly at first, but with gathering speed, they began to regroup. Their movements were different now, less fluid, more individual. "Admiral," Rodriguez's voice came through, filled with awe. I think we've done more than just disrupt them. We've given them individuality." As if to confirm her words, the comm system suddenly crackled to life with a cacophony of voices, harsh, alien, but unmistakably distinct. The Crixus were speaking, not with one voice, but with many. "What are they saying?" Vega demanded. The ship's AI worked furiously to translate, and slowly fragments of comprehensible speech emerged. "What is this? Feeling. So much. Noise. So many. Thoughts. Who am I?" Vega felt a chill run down her spine. They hadn't just disrupted the Crixus hive mind. They'd shattered it entirely, giving each Crixus ship, perhaps each individual Crixus, a sense of self it had never known before. "Open a channel," she ordered, her mind racing. This was an opportunity, but also a massive risk. These newly individual Crixus were an unknown quantity, potentially even more dangerous than the hive mind had been. "This is Admiral Elena Vega of the Earth Fleet," she began, her voice steady. "Crixus Fleet, you have been released from your hive mind. You are individuals now, free to make your own choices. We offer you peace, a chance to explore your new identities without bloodshed. What say you?" For a long moment, there was silence. Then, one by one, responses began to come in. I do not understand. What is peace? Why would you offer this? We came to consume. I feel lost, adrift. What am I without the collective?" Vega took a deep breath. This was uncharted territory, not just for the Crixus, but for humanity and the Nevoreans as well. They had come expecting to fight a war, and instead found themselves midwifing the birth of a new civilization. "Peace is coexistence," Vega explained, choosing her words carefully. "It's the freedom to grow, to learn, to become more than what you were. You came to consume, yes, but now you have the choice to create instead, to join us in exploring the galaxy, in pushing the boundaries of what's possible." As she spoke, Vega noticed something extraordinary happening on the tactical display. The Crixus ships were moving again, but not in attack formation. They were rearranging themselves, forming new patterns that seemed to pulse with a different kind of energy. Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through, filled with wonder. "Admiral, I think they're talking to each other, not as a hive mind, but as individuals. They're forming communities." Vega felt a surge of hope. This was more than they could have ever dreamed of. Not just a victory, but a transformation. A chance to turn an implacable enemy into a potential ally. "Crixus Fleet," she said, her voice filled with determination. "We invite you to join us, to learn what it means to be individuals, to be part of a community of diverse minds and ideas. What you do with your new freedom is up to you, but know that we extend our hands in friendship, not war." The response, when it came, was not what anyone expected. A single Crixus ship, larger than the others, moved forward. Its voice, when it spoke, was different, deeper, more resonant, and filled with a newfound gravitas. "We accept," it said simply. "We will learn. We will grow. We will become." As the words echoed across the comm system, Vega felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. This was more than just a military victory. It was the dawn of a new era in galactic history. Humanity and the Nevorians had come together to face an existential threat, and in doing so, they had not just saved themselves, but potentially redeemed an entire species. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. As Vega looked out at the mixed fleet of human, Nevorian, and now Crixus ships, she knew that the future would be complex, challenging, and filled with unknowns. But it would also be filled with possibility, with the potential for growth and understanding on a scale never before imagined. "Well," she said, a small smile playing on her lips, "I think we're going to need a bigger conference room." As laughter rippled across the bridge, tinged with relief and a touch of hysteria, Vega allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. They had done it. Against all odds, they had turned the tide. And in doing so, they had opened the door to a future brighter and more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. The Crixus threat was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun. A new alliance, the Grand Assembly Hall of Nevoria Prime, once a serene space for philosophical debates and artistic performances, now buzzed with an energy unlike anything in its long history. Representatives from Earth, Nevoria, and the newly individualized Crixus gathered in a scene that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. Admiral Elena Vega stood at the center of it all. Her crisp uniform a stark contrast to the flowing robes of the Nevorian elders and the still-evolving biomechanical forms of the Crixus delegates. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on her. This gathering could well determine the future of not just their respective species, but the entire galaxy. "Friends, allies, and honored guests," Vega began, her voice carrying across the hushed assembly. "We stand here today not as victors and vanquished, but as equals, as survivors of a conflict that threatened to consume us all, and as architects of a future we must now build together." Elder Zara, her skin shimmering with a kaleidoscope of emotional hues, stepped forward. "The Nevorian people owe a debt we can never fully repay," she said, her melodic voice tinged with gratitude. "To the humans who came to our aid in our darkest hour, and to the Crixus who chose a new path when offered the chance." A ripple of agreement passed through the assembly. The Crixus representative, a being named Vexna, whose form seemed to shift subtly as it moved, spoke next. Its voice, still strange to most ears, carried a newfound depth of emotion. I speak for those who were once the swarm," Vexna said. "Our awakening to individuality has been challenging, painful even, but it has also been enlightening. We seek to understand, to grow, to become more than what we were." As the delegates shared their perspectives, Vega couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. The desperate battle above Nevoria, the gamble with the human chaos virus, the tense first contacts with the newly awakened Crixus. Each step had been fraught with danger and uncertainty. Yet here they were, on the cusp of something truly revolutionary. Dr. Rodriguez, representing the scientific community, took the floor next. "What we've witnessed is more than just a military victory or a scientific breakthrough," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "It's the birth of a new paradigm. The merging of human ingenuity, Nevorian wisdom, and Crixus adaptability has opened doors we never even knew existed." She gestured to a holographic display that sprang to life in the center of the hall. It showed a dizzying array of technological and biological innovations, the fruits of their fledgling collaboration. "Imagine," Rodriguez continued, "ships that can heal themselves, powered by crystals that draw energy from subspace, weapons that don't destroy, but transform, medical techniques that can rewrite genetic code on the fly. The possibilities are endless." The assembly murmured in a mixture of awe and apprehension. The potential of their combined knowledge was staggering, but it also raised serious ethical questions. Vega knew that balancing progress with responsibility would be one of their greatest challenges moving forward. As the discussion progressed, touching on everything from resource sharing to cultural exchange programs. Vega found herself marveling at the unlikeliness of it all. Humanity, barely a century into its journey among the stars. The Nevorians, a peaceful people thrust into a war they never wanted. And the Crixus, former destroyers of worlds, now grappling with concepts like individuality and cooperation. It was Elder Zora who finally gave voice to the question on everyone's mind. "This alliance we're forging," she said, her skin pulsing with cautionary yellows, "it will change everything. Are we truly ready for what comes next?" A hush fell over the assembly. Vega stepped forward, feeling the weight of expectation on her shoulders. "Ready or not," she said, her voice firm, "change has come. The galaxy as we knew it no longer exists. We can either shape the future together or be shaped by it separately." She paused, looking around the room, meeting the eyes, or sensory organs, of each delegate. "I propose we formalize this alliance, not just as a defensive pact or a scientific collaboration, but as a new galactic order, a union of diverse species working together to explore, to learn, and to grow. We'll face challenges, yes, misunderstandings, conflicts of interest, the temptation to abuse our combined power. But together, we stand a chance of overcoming those obstacles and creating something truly extraordinary." The proposal was met with a moment of stunned silence, followed by an eruption of voices. Some expressed enthusiasm, others caution. The Crixus delegates conferred among themselves in a flurry of bioelectric signals, while the Nevorian elders' skins flickered through a rapid series of colors. As the debate raged, Vega felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Captain Chen, his expression grave. "Admiral," he said in a low voice, "we're picking up some strange readings from the outer system. It might be nothing, but—" Vega nodded, understanding the unspoken concern. The galaxy was vast, and they had already encountered one civilization-ending threat. Who knew what else lurked in the depths of space? She returned her attention to the assembly, raising her hand for quiet. "Friends," she said, her tone commanding attention, "while we debate the finer points of our alliance, let us not forget the realities that brought us together. The universe is vast, wondrous, and often dangerous. United, we are stronger. United, we can face whatever challenges await us." Her words seemed to strike a chord. The debate took on a new tone, less focused on individual concerns and more on collective potential. As the hours passed, a framework began to emerge, a galactic concordat that would bind their species together while respecting their unique identities and autonomy. As the assembly neared its conclusion, Vexna approached Vega, its form rippling with what she had come to recognize as excitement. "Admiral," it said, "we have been discussing among ourselves. The Crixus, or rather those of us who were once Crixus, wish to offer something to this alliance." Vega raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What did you have in mind?" "Our ships," Vexna replied. "Our technology. We propose to integrate them fully with your fleets, to serve as both vessels and teachers, in a way, to help you understand and harness the adaptability that was once our greatest strength." The offer took Vega by surprise. It was a tremendous gesture of trust, and the strategic implications were staggering. A combined fleet of human, Nevorian, and Crixus ships would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "That's incredibly generous," Vega said carefully. "Are you certain?" Vexna's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Admiral, you gave us the gift of individuality, of choice. This is our choice, to be not just allies, but integral parts of this new galactic community you envision." As word of the Crixus offer spread through the assembly, there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. What had begun as a tentative alliance was rapidly evolving into something far more profound, a true melding of civilizations. The final draft of the Galactic Concordat was a document unlike any other in the history of their respective species. It outlined not just the practicalities of their alliance, shared defense, technological exchange, diplomatic protocols, but also a shared vision for the future, a commitment to exploration, to the pursuit of knowledge, and to the protection of sentient life in all its forms. As the delegates gathered to sign the historic document, Vega found herself standing between Elder Zara and Vexna. The Navorian elder's skin glowed with a warm, golden light of hope and optimism. The Crixus representative's form had settled into a configuration that somehow managed to evoke aspects of both human and Navorian physiology, a visual representation of their new unity. With this act, Vega said, her voice carrying across the now silent hall, "We do more than form an alliance. We declare our intention to forge a new path for our peoples and for all those we have yet to encounter. We commit ourselves to the greatest adventure in the history of our species, the peaceful exploration and stewardship of the galaxy." As cheers erupted throughout the assembly hall, Vega allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had come so far, faced such overwhelming odds. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, perhaps even new threats to face. But looking around at this impossible gathering of former enemies turned allies, she felt a surge of hope. The signing ceremony complete, Vega made her way to a viewing platform overlooking the crystal spires of Navoria Prime. The sky above was alive with activity, ships from all three species moving in concert, already beginning the work of integration and cooperation. She was joined by Dr. Rodriguez and Captain Chen, both looking somewhat awestruck by the enormity of what they had just witnessed. "So," Chen said, a hint of his old wry humor creeping into his voice, "I guess we're going to need to update the galactic maps. What do we call this new alliance of ours?" Vega smiled, her gaze fixed on the stars above. "I was thinking, the Concordat of United Species, QS for short." Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "Has a nice ring to it. But you know this is just the beginning, right? There's so much we don't know, so much to explore and discover." "Exactly," Vega replied, a spark of excitement in her eyes. "We've taken our first steps into a larger universe. Who knows what we'll find out there? New friends, new challenges, new threats," Chen added, ever the pragmatist. Vega nodded, her expression turning serious. "Almost certainly, but whatever comes, we'll face it together. Human determination, Navorian wisdom, Crixus adaptability, and who knows what other strengths we'll add to our alliance in the years to come." As they stood there, watching the bustling activity in the skies above Navoria, Vega felt a profound sense of anticipation. They had survived their trial by fire, forged an alliance that would reshape the galaxy. But in many ways, their true journey was just beginning. The universe was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But with their newfound unity, with the combined strengths of their diverse species, they were ready to face whatever awaited them among the stars. The age of isolation was over. The age of the Concordat had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the first ships of the newly formed Concordat fleet prepared for their maiden voyage of exploration, Admiral Lilina Vega gave the order that would echo through history. "Let's see what's out there." The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.